So this has been a topic and this has been a game series that every day I kind of grow stronger with, and I wanted to make a video for the past couple days really because of this Activision Blizzard thing, and it's the Transformers games, but more specifically it's Transformers War for Cybertron and then Fall of Cybertron. Now, one thing that I've been doing kind of on the side, I actually have an entire channel dedicated to this, is talking about / playing / collecting old games. My channel is called Podcast Now Back to the Past. I'll leave a link in the description if you guys want to check it out. And I just had gotten Fall of Cybertron. Now, I had played both of these games back in the day. Stupid teenage me, and I think I was in my very early teen years when these games came out. I rented a lot of games back in the day, and maybe I fooled myself into believing I owned them, but I do not own either of them. So I got Fall of Cybertron. War of Cybertron, very, very expensive, and I'm looking for it. I'll hopefully eventually pick it up. But what I want to do in this video is talk about the return of these games, because I do think they need to return. And I also think truly there's never been a better time for a variety of reasons. The first reason being the Activision Blizzard thing. So, once this deal goes through, it's technically still not gone through, at least at the time I'm recording this. Maybe in the next day or two it will. Once this happens, you'll have Activision Blizzard. Now, High Moon Studios, by the way, they still exist. They're not exactly doing Transformers things anymore. They're basically a support studio for COD, which I'm not necessarily a fan of, but Activision does that kind of with all their studios. I'm not necessarily talking about a third game in that grouping. Right now, there were several Transformers games from that era of, say, 2007 or 8 to probably like 2015. Many Transformers games, most of them average, but then you had these two just absolute legend games, which I think they're honestly game of the year kind of material. They're games that people overlook or just don't even think about half the time, but these are some of the better games in that generation, especially an overlooked kind of game. So get it on Game Pass. That's the first thing, and I've been tweeting that as well. These two games immediately should be on Game Pass. One of the biggest problems with these two games, and I think a reason why to me it's becoming more of a thing, and I think to other people that this game has a cult kind of following, I would say online, it's very hard to get these games. There's a reason why Fall of Cybertron goes for about $40-$45 online. War for Cybertron goes for even more. That game can get up to $60-$70 that people are charging for it, and it's because you can only get it through that. You look it up, and I've actually done this naively because I thought, maybe it's still being sold. I don't know. So I go on Xbox, and you can type it in. You can find it, but it won't let you. It says it's unavailable. So you cannot get these games on digital storefronts. You can't walk into your local Best Buy or GameStop or Amazon and just get a brand new copy. And this is the preservation of game kind of things. You have an easy out, okay? You have a very easy out. Get these games back, put them on Game Pass. That is the easiest, most simple thing you could possibly do. And by the way, if you do that, maybe that will drive the prices down, and then I'll be able to get War for Cybertron a little bit cheaper. Just throwing that out there. Number two, getting these games back and doing some sort of remaster collection. Again, these are the duo, the 1 and 2. So I think to be able to put them together, you think of things like Prototype. I think Prototype's probably a good example for this. Now, that doesn't have necessarily a remaster collection with those two, but there are bundles of Prototype 1 and 2 together, and that's a franchise a little similar where you had some success in these two games, but you never got a third, you never got future games for it. And Transformers, these two Transformers games are very, very similar. So I think putting them together makes a lot of sense. Now, that would have made more sense back in 2012, 2013, right after Fall of Cybertron came out, because that ship has largely sailed, and we're only asking here for the bare minimum. You're going to have to probably not just put them together, but you'd probably also have to do some sort of remaster collection. So that would be, again, the simplest, and a thing that honestly I will get mad. I will actually probably flip out if they don't do it, would be Game Pass, okay? That is so easy, I imagine. And it's easy for me to say sitting here in the corner of my living room, okay? I understand it, but at the same time, it's not that difficult, and you need to do it. So that's number one. That's the easiest thing you could do. Number two, putting them together in some sort of remaster collection and charge for it. I don't care. Make us pay money. Make us pay $40-$50 to get both of these games. Now, there's the multiplayer component. component, you're probably going to have to leave that behind. You think of games that have collections or have remasters. Some, I guess, like you think of the Master Chief Collection, that would keep it. But say when Uncharted did it with 1 through 3, they dropped the multiplayer. So sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. I'd imagine you would not get the multiplayer, so that would be dropped. The best case scenario is the first two things, Game Pass, Remaster Collection. And then if you wanted to do more Transformers games, now that goes into a little bit more muddy waters. Do we need more Transformers games? Well, number one, I want to make it known, like I'm not forgetting Transformers Reactivate. Like there is a Transformers game that is coming out. I think we can live in a world where we can have more than one kind of Transformers game. So if you want to continue with these kind of games, I think you could. Now again, High Moon Studios still exists. They're probably a little rusty. To be honest with you and more realistic, I would assume, considering it's been 11 years since their last Transformers game, almost every single person I bet on that team is gone. Okay, that's the way game development works. We found that out very harshly with Redfall, where 70% of them, that made, say, like a Prey, left before Redfall even came out. So I would imagine the team that made these legendary games are no longer, even though the name still stands, right? The people that actually made it, I imagine most of them are not there. But I think we can live in a world where there's more of them. Now, I made a video actually on Transformers Reactivate yesterday, so we're on some sort of weird Transformers roll on the channel. I'd like to say somewhat of the same thing. One thing you don't have, really, I think, is the backing of, like, anything else Transformers. So you think to the late 2000s and early 10s, you really had the Michael Bay films, which, say what you want about them, but in a lot of ways, that was like the peak Transformers, where it was probably the most mainstream interest. And we know a lot of these executives that don't necessarily have hearts or souls. They care about the money. They care about what's the general interest of people. And so that time has largely passed. We're not in that same era. We had Rise of the Beast. I didn't see it yet. Maybe eventually I will. I don't really care too much. That movie, I think crossed 400 million. That's not bad, but I mean, we're not looking at movies, Transformers movies, that make 7, 8, $900 million anymore. We're looking at under 500 million. And that's with inflation, and that's with rising ticket prices. So really, I'd say there's less interest mainstream for like movies and stuff than there's ever been in the last, let's say, like 10, 15 years. So that probably hurts the idea of like going full on Transformers, right? I don't know if that's in the card, especially when you have Transformers Reactivate already happening. But again, that's why let's start very easy. Let's start with just getting these games available again, getting the rights back. And they've talked about the Activision Blizzard thing. I think Blizzard specifically have maybe talked about the older catalog. I've said it time and time again, the prototypes of the world. Guitar Hero, I don't know if that would ever truly work. I don't know if music games are like right for the world. You have Transformers, you have Spyro, the list goes, StarCraft, we made videos. I've made videos on most old franchises that they could bring back, and this really is one of them, and you don't even have to do all that much. The simplest thing is just, also preservation, just get the games out again. Because at this point, all you have left of these two games is getting it on your eBays, your Mercari, like those places of the world. That's all the places you can get these games. They don't exist anywhere else. So now that Microsoft, with their truly infinite wealth, let's do something to get these games back, please. Okay, so let me know what you guys think. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. Check out my third channel. Again, I'll leave a link in the description and as a comment. Check out all my other links in my description, and I hope to see you all on the next one.